Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Sci-Fi Corner. Guys, get on your Infinity Gauntlet gloves, because this is the Avengers Endgame movie review. Now, this is the spoiler review. Spoiler filled. We're going to spoil everything here. So if you guys have not seen the film Avengers Endgame yet, please turn off this review and go see it, and then later on you can come back and visit this video. Because we are going to talk spoilers, and I'm very excited to do so, because I'm like frothing at the mouth. I want to talk about this movie. I want to talk about all the different crazy, wild things that happen in this movie. And you already know my basic thoughts on the movie, which I gave in my non-spoiler review. You know that I love this film. And I think it's a brilliant conclusion to the epic saga that we've been following for 10 years now in 22 movies. This is definitely the culmination. This is definitely the conclusion of that chapter, at least, with our major heroes, that we followed for all these years now. Captain America and Iron Man and Thor and the Hulk and all that stuff. So yeah, I absolutely love the film. I love the direction by Anthony and Joe Russo, and I think that was brilliant. That it was a stroke of genius, the way they did the plot. That they made it like, spoiler alert now, we are talking spoilers, a time travel storyline. I thought that was so cool, and that was such a perfect way to be able to look back at some of the past movies with, it's like a love letter to all the movies from the past, like the original Avengers and the Captain America, Civil War, and the Winter Soldier and all that. And we get to look back at some of those movies, and it's really cool how they get involved in the storylines, I really like the way they did that. I thought that was a very smart way to do it. And also is a really cool way to separate this movie from Avengers Infinity War. So like I said in my non-spoiler review, these films are very different from each other. It's like what some people are saying, like Kill Bill Volume 1 and then Volume 2, how the first Kill Bill was very action-packed and like crazy and wild and outrageous, over the top, and then Kill Bill Volume 2 was very character-driven, and it was a lot more with the dialogue and the interaction with the characters more than it was like the crazy kung fu stuff, and that's kind of like the way this is. The Avengers Infinity War is wild, crazy action and so much stuff going on, explosions everywhere, and you had Thanos running wild, killing people, and just practically destroying half the universe, and it's all about Thanos and him getting all the stones and gathering up together so he can wipe out half the universe. And this film, it's more about the after effects of what happened in Infinity War and the devastation that it caused, and how it affects the world, not just the Avengers, but of course the Avengers themselves as well, and how each one of them is dealing with the process, the grief, the loss. And yes, we are introduced to Hawkeye right at the beginning of the film, and we see what happens with him, and it's really devastating, sad. What happens? His whole family is wiped out by the Thanos' snap, His whole family falls victim, with the exception of his daughter, actually. His daughter ended up surviving, but his wife died, his other kid died, but not the daughter. The daughter somehow made it. And he does end up meeting up with her later on, which is really cool. So yeah, just an awesome, awesome movie. And of course, he has some really dark moments where he gets really depressed and he can't handle them. He ends up taking a dark turn, becoming almost like a vigilante, and just taking out the bad guys, and actually, killing bad guys, he goes on the dark side, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty different, and like I said in my non-spoiler review, I think people that think Hawkeye was not their favorite character, you know, kind of on the bottom and the end of the spectrum, I think in this movie you'll find that he's a lot more interesting and really cool. Like, and they do focus on him a lot, and I like that a lot. And certain other characters take a huge turn as well, you know, and that could be divisive among fans. I can see how maybe some of the hardcore comic book nerds might not like what they do with Thor and Hulk's character because they make some big changes. Like I said, what happened with the snap and what Thanos did affects the characters in different ways, and definitely affected Thor in a big way. He just represses himself, and you know, we meet up with him like 5 years later, and when the Avengers try and gather up their, you know, like try and pick themselves up and try and devise a plan of what they're going to do about Thanos, how they're going to try and rectify the situation and reverse what happened. So they try and gather up all the Avengers, and some of them aren't doing so well. Like Thor, they go and visit him, and he's completely out of shape. He's got a beer gut. He's got long hair. He's got a long-ass beard, and he's drinking his brains away, you know. He's a complete alcoholic. He's drinking gallons and jugs of beer, you know. He's just a mess. And I thought that was really interesting. It was really funny, like, seeing him like that, like, out of shape. And, like Thor's never been, like, Thor's, like, jacked as hell, ripped. He's never been out of shape in his life. Never in the history of the character of Thor has he been out of shape. It was just funny to see him have, like, man boobs. I thought it was funny, but you know, some people might not like that, and I can understand that. But me personally, I thought it was something refreshing, something different. And Chris Hemsworth is so funny you know, he's got such a great sense of humor, and he just nails it. His comic timing is excellent, and then there's kind of something different with the Hulk as well. Now, I'll be honest, I did not like Mark Ruffalo's past couple performances as Bruce Banner. I didn't have any problem with the actual Hulk character when he turns into the Hulk, and the monster that the Hulk is has never been an issue with me. What has been an issue with me is Mark Ruffalo's portrayal of Bruce Banner, the character, because I felt like it wasn't really true to the character in the past couple films, at least. I think in the first Avengers movie I liked his performance, but he kind of started straying from that, like in Thor Ragnarok specifically, and Avengers Infinity War. He started getting really, like, goofy and silly, and I'm like, this is not the Bruce Banner that I grew up reading in the comic book. The Bruce Banner in the comic is very serious, highly intelligent, like a brilliant man. He's a doctor, he's a scientist. He's an expert on gamma rays, and, you know, he's not some freaking goofball, you know, telling jokes all the time and acting stupid, you know. So I'm glad that they kind of rectified that in a little bit, but at the same time it was funny because we saw Hulk and Bruce Banner became one. And that actually did happen in the comic books for a while, you know. Hulk was actually Hulk all the time, and he was smart like Bruce Banner, you know. And he was like that for a few years, you know. I believe that was when Peter David was writing the comic. And, yeah, I actually like that era of the Hulk. But then, you know, the fans started, you know, crying for the Savage Hulk. We want Savage Hulk back, so they ended up bringing Savage Hulk back again. But that was a lot of fun for a few years, seeing a different side to the Hulk, seeing the Hulk actually be smart, like Bruce Banner, you know, having them be one, both Bruce Banner and the Hulk being one. And I just thought that was a lot of fun, and they really have fun with it. There's a lot of great jokes. It's really funny, and it's really cool. I really enjoyed that, but I can see, again, how the hardcore fans might not like it. They might think it's too drastic of a change. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. Plus, we get to see old school Hulk too in the film as well, because they go into the past and they meet up with their old selves, and well, at least they see their own versions of the old versions of themselves, like as they were in the first Avengers movie, and some of the other films like Winter Soldier. There's certain scenes that they take directly from those movies, like Winter Soldier and the original Avengers movie. It's just a lot of fun. I love the time travel aspect. I just thought that was such a cool way of doing it. And very cool. It's like how in the Winter Soldier they kind of made it like a spy thriller. And that's another thing. We actually see Robert Redford's character return, which was cool. You see a lot of cool cameos of people that were in the previous 22 movies. Like even characters that were kind of obscure and not, And that was cool. We get to see Red Skull once again, and that was really cool. Part of Infinity War, he returns as well. And you see a lot of some of those side characters, like Natalie Portman as Jean, Thor's love interest. We see her for a little bit. We see Gwyneth Paltrow back, and she really has a bigger role in this movie. She actually takes on the Iron Man suit. And it's almost like Iron Woman, I thought that was pretty cool. And she handled it well, too. She was very good in the movie. I liked seeing Pepper Potts as Iron Woman, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, definitely the people that shine in this film are Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans. They just knock it out of the park. They just bring their A game. They've never been better than they are right here. That's for sure. And their storylines are wrapped up in this film, And they're the main reason why people say this is like the conclusion, this is the final act of that 22 film storyline, of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We do get an idea of what they're probably going to do in the next films. Like, we have some newer heroes now, like Captain Marvel, and you have the Falcon. These guys are still young, like the Winter Soldier. These guys are younger, They could certainly carry on the franchise with those characters, like Tom Holland as Spider-Man. Yeah. So you could see how they could continue. Maybe the Avengers, maybe like the new Avengers with some of the younger people, like Captain Marvel and Spider-Man. I could see how the franchise would continue. But as far as like those original heroes go, like this is probably the end game for them, But it was just great to see. It was great to see how they picked themselves off their feet and figure out a way how they're going to handle Thanos. And a lot of that has to do with Scott Lang's character, that's Ant-Man, played by Paul Rudd. He comes back. He was really good in this one. I actually didn't like Ant-Man and the Wasp at all. I did like the first Ant-Man, but I thought the second one was pretty bad. But they did rectify that with this one. He was very good in this. And he comes up with the idea of the time travel, and in a way that they could go back to before Thanos got the Infinity Gauntlet and did the snap and wiped out half the universe. So they devise a way that they could use time travel, so they could go back before Thanos did the snap and defeat him before he even gets a chance to wipe out half the universe. And that way they can save all those Marvel heroes that died. Because we lost some major people. We lost Black Panther, we lost Scarlet Witch, a lot of major heroes died. We lost the Winter Soldier, a lot of people. And that was a big shocker, the Black Panther, which had like his own billion-dollar movie, They just established him. And of course Spider-Man was a huge loss. Spider-Man, the flagship character of Marvel Comics, died in Infinity War. And you could see Robert Downey, how that affected the Iron Man character. That he was like the mentor of Peter Parker, and so he's having a tough time dealing with, you know, this kid that he just took under his wing, and he just made him an Avenger, and now he's gone, you know. So there's a lot of emotion. There's so much emotion in this movie. A lot of funny stuff, a lot of really sad stuff, and it's just a roller coaster ride of emotions. And of course you got the incredible epic battle when they finally have it out with Thanos, when they finally confront him. And at first it's just, you know, the main 6 heroes. You got Ant-Man and Hawkeye and then Captain America and Thor and the Hulk and Iron Man all come together, you know, the surviving heroes. But then what happens is once they go back in time and find a way to get those heroes back, they all join in the fight, and then we finally see those heroes that died come back and join the battle, and it's just so emotional. It's like, yes, they're back. You know, you get Spider-Man back, you got everybody back, you got the Black Panther back, you got the Scarlet Witch back, but I must say that Marvel did stick to their guns with the people that died before Thanos did the snap. They stay gone, you know. I like that Marvel stick to their guns and didn't go and bring them back too, because that would be too much and there would be logic issues there. Like Loki is still gone, and you know, the people that died before the snap from Thanos stay gone. And we do actually see them, but in a different way. We see their characters from the past, but they don't come back to the present. And plus we also lose some other people. We lose Scarlett Johansson as the Black Widow, and she makes the sacrifice just like Gamora did, you know, from the Guardians of the Galaxy, when Thanos threw her over the cliff in order to get that Soul Stone. And they do the same thing here, only it's Hawkeye and Scarlet, and the Hawkeye and Black Widow this time, and they kind of fight over it. They're like, no, I'm going to make the sacrifice, and Hawkeye's like, no, I'm going to make the sacrifice. I've already lost everything, you know, he lost his whole family. But she's like, I never had any family except you guys, so I'm making a sacrifice. And it's a really heartfelt moment. It's also kind of wild. You don't know who's going to do it, because they're fighting. They literally get into fisticuffs to, you know. But then Scarlett Johansson finally gets free and runs off the cliff. But then they have this really cliffhanger. Literally, they're hanging from the cliff because Hawkeye tackles her, you know. And they're both hanging, and she's dangling, and he's like, oh, let me go, just let me go. And it's like, oh no. And there's also some other jaw-dropping moments with Thanos, like because we see how powerful he is even without the stones. We see him battling, taking on the Avengers by himself, and he's kicking some ass, you know. like the Avengers are having a tough time with him. This is before, like, all the other ones that died come back, you know. You see how strong and tough he is even without, but at one point it looks like he does get the Infinity Gauntlet back, and he puts it on. I'm like, no, no, not again, you know. And it's like, whoa, you know. And that was close. But again, I can't say enough about how great this movie is and how great the direction is from the Russo brothers. And it's just such an amazing conclusion to the saga that we followed all these years. And I love the way they wrap it up. And yeah, it is very sad when we do lose some of the other heroes, like Robert Downey as Iron Man, you know. He doesn't survive the battle with Thanos, but he does end up, you know, winning it for them, basically. In the end, he's the one that eventually gets the Infinity Gauntlet on his hand, and when he does the snap, it kills all the bad guys this time, not all our heroes. And some might say that's kind of a gap in logic. Why is it when he does it, all the bad guys die instead of half the universe, just like Thanos did? I could see how some people might say that's kind of a logic issue, but no, I thought that was perfect. You know,